Hello, I'm Carrie Gard, and welcome to Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders. I'm so grateful to you all for your patience, endless patience. I have rescheduled this so many times, but we are here. It is happening. We are live. And we are with Nadia Milani finally, and it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful show. If you are here with us, the beauty of being live is we get comments and we get to interact with each other, and we are looking forward to your questions. So if you're here, say hello. We'd love to see you, whether you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, chime on in. Today I have with me Nadia Milani. We are going to talk about multiple go-to-marketing motions. I had to say that slowly so that I got it, and I did. Oh, we got some fireworks from
I have no
Nadia.
idea how I did that, but I love it. I'm all
Is
for it.
right. I love all of the motions. Yes.
The GTM
Yes.
get the GTM motions get. Oh, got the balloons, right? The balloons.
We got the balloons.
There
We
we go.
do. And the
Nice.
double thumbs up and the double, all the things.
The
We are
party.
going to throw those in sporadically, so just wait for them. I am excited to have this conversation. With me is, like I mentioned, Nadia Milani. She is the marketing leader you hire when looking for a next level change. She's a bit of a pirate who enjoys sailing the ship in the stormy seas on paths to less traveled. She doesn't follow playbooks because she creates them. She's learned that each company has to forge its own path to success. She's the marketer that helps you get there. People say go to mark GTM is this and that, but really it's about getting the money. Show me the money, Nadia. She builds teams that understand how to generate revenue and who will restore your faith in marketing. Dear God, yes to that. Nadia, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. You reading my LinkedIn bio, it just makes me reminds me that I might need to update it. But there's parts of it that I still enjoy. But I remember I did a webinar just recently, and somebody, but it was like a CFO, like VCs were on it, and it was all about like how to budget for 2024. And they read that bio, and I was like, oh man, like I need to update it. Get the
Oh,
stuff out. But
I mean, maybe update it per audience, but for our audience, this is spot freaking on.
okay,
I
okay,
mean,
good.
especially like I sort of wanted to say slowly that GTM motion, like go to market or getting the money. Like, I mean,
All about
that's what
the
it's all about.
It really is. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's what it's all about. I know it sounds like that's where when you're working for someone or you're working even by yourself or you're working in an organization, it's as much as we think it's about something else, at the end of the day, it is really about getting the money. And the way you're going to do it is figuring out which market strategy is going to work. And yeah, so I think I'm excited to talk about all of that today. And thanks for the intro. So happy to be here.
So excited to have you.
By the way, I haven't been on a live for a while. I post them. And am I coming in and out? Did you lose
No,
me?
you're good. You're good. I was just adjusting the mic elements because I was hearing some things. So
Oh, amazing.
forgive me. We're live right now, and I want to make sure that Nadia is coming in loud and clear. So I was just, kicking off some buttons,
I
but we
just
are
I
good
just saw that
now.
the video got lost for a little bit there, so I was a little worried that maybe there was something wrong with on my end. But no, I'm happy I'm back. I'm happy everyone can hear me. But I used to host a live, and it's actually this is straight it's hosted by StreamYard, and I haven't been in a StreamYard for a while, so it's good to be back. For some reason, I can't see the chat, so if people are asking questions, if you just want to let me know, and I can answer
Yep.
them through
I
audio.
got the comments. Yeah, I got the comments up. I haven't seen anybody yet, but we're waiting for you. So chime
Awesome.
on in. Chime on in. Nadia, I gave a brief synopsis of what it is you love to do, but it's all about the journey. So share it with us. What do you do and how did you get there?
Yeah, so I'm a VP of marketing. Currently, I'm at Wellness Living. I'm at Wellness Living, and what is Wellness Living? We're wellness tech in the wellness tech category, but we're a studio management software. So think like yoga, fitness, Pilates. We even do like martial arts. So we allow studios to operate. So that was for me one of the biggest reasons I made the leap to wellness tech was the mission. It's like really about bringing wellness to communities, and that was like for me who somebody who loves yoga, who loves fitness, and really that's been something that has been life changing, and not only for me personally but professionally. I just was all for it. But career marketer, have been in marketing for my whole career, studied it. So it's kind of funny because some people say that they get into marketing just because they stumbled into it. They're just like, oh, I was did something completely else or something else completely, or I was in sales, or I was waitressing and I stumbled upon it, or I started doing events. And but no, I'm somebody who always wanted to get into marketing. So there's something that really interesting to me about connecting people and businesses. And I just thought there's something there that I enjoy, the creative design, the branding part. Started in more of the media side, so the media side of the business, which was actually a really great way to start, because I really understood how content played a part in engaging an audience and how to create really great content. I did that for a long time, then went into more of a smaller scale content company. Loved that because it was a lot more startup, and that was kind of like, oh, I love this. There's something about this that I love. I helped launch the international division of that company, and then went into e-com, cloud, and then SaaS. So I've stayed into SaaS ever since. Partly because I do love just the pace of SaaS, but also just how it operates. And there's something about B2B that I just love. So I've stayed in B2B SaaS ever since, and here I am today.
So it's the fast pace that you love about it, and it keeps you on your like it's the
Keeps me
thing
on my
that gets you.
toes. It keeps me on my toes. Like it's stretch. There's never a dull moment. It's like, so the one thing that I can't do. Maybe this is more of a personal thing, but anything that I'm a builder, so I really enjoy coming into a company and being able to build either a team or a strategy or a GTM motion, something that we need to do as a company, that's net new and we're building it. And in SaaS tech, it's just there. I mean, we had a couple of tough years, and I think yeah, we're still catching some headwinds there. But I think we're slowly coming out of that. But yeah, there's just something about the just being out, the fast pacedness of it all. Being able to be agile, pivoting, and there's parts, it's not for everyone. Some people will, this is somebody's nightmare sometimes. Pivoting all the time, not doing the same thing, dealing with a lot of ambiguity is like not everyone's cup of tea. But for me it is.
It does take a certain person. I mean, the startup world is constantly pivoting. One day, this is a priority, and then the next day, it just happened to me. I have a lovely client who's a startup. It is the funnest job. The product they're working on is so exhilarating. Like, I'm just on the edge of my seat all my time. But literally, every week I come in, he's like, okay, new priority. Like, I've shifted things around. I want to lean into this new thing. And it's a whirlwind, but it is absolutely like what gets me up in the morning. I'm like, I'm here for it. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
but
And it's really about like, not like, you don't have it figured out. So it's really about trying to figure it out. Like, how do we grow? How do we scale? How do we understand our customers? How do we build this product that is that our customers or segment needs? And I just think there's super challenging about that I really enjoy.
it's that product market fit for sure, especially
Right.
in an ever growing category where it gets really crowded very quickly, and trying to make sure that you're meeting your client where they are. It's the joy.
Absolutely. It is, yeah. It's a
The
joy.
joy and the challenge.
They give you an absolute, yeah, pain in the butt sometimes, but it's usually a joy.
When you're up for a challenge, let's talk about challenges. You just started this new job. You've been in it 4 months ish.
Yeah, so I just finished my 90 days. Yeah, so it's like,
I
yeah,
know.
the balloons,
That's balloons,
90 days, 90 days.
fireworks, all the
No,
things.
there we go.
Um,
The fireworks started. There we go.
yes, the fireworks have started. So you're out of your 90 days, you're on to the next thing. So within the next, I don't know how you measure it, whether you measure it in 90-day segments, or you're like, okay, I'm out of my 90 days and now it's about the next, 9 months. But,
Mm.
what's the current challenge for you, with the current startup you're in, with the current, headwinds you're facing?
Yeah.
What's hard for you?
I mean, for me, it's so that 90 days is exhilarating but challenging all at the same time. Um, I think for your first 30, 60, 90 days, I think a lot of it has to do with understanding the business and the role before you actually accept it. we kind of had to understand like what are the business problems, what's the market, what's the team dynamic, who's my executive team, like who's the board, what's the product, and what stage is the company at, and do you have the necessary skills to bring the performance required to bring the company to the next level. So understanding, the unit economics of the business, all that stuff is really, I think, important in the interview stage. So you're not really surprised the first 30, 60, 90, but also that you can build a plan that's gonna work. I think the challenge is that your 30, 60, 90-day plan will never be as what you what you thought it was going to be. It's built on a bunch of assumptions, and until you get into the weeds, you're not going to really know if that's the direction that you need to or want to go into, or reverse, like you want to go into or need to go into. So I think that is a part of the challenge, is like being able to understand the business, lead, and like learning all at the same time. And I think what makes those first 90 days successful is understanding like where are the wins that you can implement early, like super early, and the wins that make the most impact are the ones that are aligned with the business and the strategy. So it's, is it like, more MQLs, more inbound opportunities? Is it, a process thing where, you have to, like, depending on how big your company is, if you're super startup pre-seed, like maybe process isn't a big one. Maybe it's marketing ops and data. So that was the first thing I realized in my 30, 60, 90 days, like, okay, we really need to figure out our data out. Like we're at the 25 million ARR mark. So it's like, we're not babies anymore. Like we're older. So we got to figure out like, what is all of our data? How does it all work together? It's like, it's the crummy work. Some people love it. But it's the most, for me, it was the biggest priority. So, hired a marketing ops person right away. The first, I think 30 days, like I'm like, okay, we need somebody. I think 2 weeks in, I'm like, I need a marketing ops person. Then we hired them. They started like just after my 30 days. But going into the next like 9 months, after you kind of approach that 90 days, it's really about delivery mode. So you kind of like, you understand what's going on. For me, I had to like put together a whole year forecast budget. So I had to figure out, okay, where are we going to grow? How are we going to do it? What are the resources that we need? What are some of the technology, some tech that we need to do it? And then it's really delivering on that. So it's delivering on that. And then it's managing down and managing up. And for me, the biggest challenge has been like doing kind of all of that all at the same time, and being there equally as much for my team as I need to be there for my executive team and the board. And yes, the board is important, and yes, the executive team is important, but like your team is really important too. And it's being able to like manage that time, like for everyone, and also not burn out at the same time. So for me, it's really about managing the time, communicating, making every minute count that you're working, because you can't be working around the clock, right? So you have to like be able to, I know it's like a qualitative thing, but it's something that's so important to the success, is managing, how am I going to manage my day? How am I going to manage my week? So that everybody that needs me, my team, my board, my executive team, they have what they need. And they understand what's going on. I approached it by quarter. So right now I looked at Q1, planned it in Q4. Now we're in Q1. I'm planning for Q2. Yes, I kind of know what I want to accomplish for the year, but I plan it quarter by quarter.
There's so much I want to unpack there.
I know. I went on.
No, it's good. It's good because I feel like when you walk into a startup, when you walk into any company net new. So wait, so you're at 25 million ARR. How big is your team that you're managing?
My team right now is, so we grew pretty quickly. So we have a team of, I hired a lot of people. Hold on. What is the actual number? There's about like 16 of us right now. So,
wow.
Yeah. So we were like a 4-person marketing team a year and a half ago. So then it like really grew pretty quickly. The way it works, we have a creative team. So I have like 3 people there plus some freelancers, and then and then I have the demand gen team. So that's a mix of demand gen specialist, content manager, events, field events. And then I have a PMM, product marketing manager, as well as a marketing ops person. And then between all of that, it's like 18 or 17.
Okay. That's an
Get back to
amazing
Rhode
size
Island.
team.
We'll get back to
That's a
one.
lot of people to manage.
It
And
is. It
so,
is. Yeah, yeah. It's, so
yeah.
that's the thing. Yeah. So you have to like be able to figure out how am I going to like work my week out so everyone that we're communicating enough, we know what's going on, and we're moving things forward.
And I think in those first 90 days, something you said that I sort of want to double down on is the learning aspect of it. When you have that many people who've been here a bit longer than you, how do you take the how do you balance the board and the C-suite and your team in a way of giving yourself space and grace to really listen to your team while also managing the board and C-suite's expectations?
Yeah, it's a really big challenge. It's a big challenge. Big challenge. I wish I had somebody from my team to let me know how I'm doing there to join the call. But yeah, I know. I think so. That's the biggest difference. So as I report into like the board and your executive, I think that sometimes it's easy to just not be as good as like it's like almost like, and I've seen this happen where some VPs will like you're almost more connected to like the board needs versus sometimes your team. But I think too, like we're small enough where you like I have to be able to be connected to the team and understand what's happening in the weeds. And how I do that is being really clear about what we're trying to achieve. Like this is the target. This is how it affects everyone. We have an OKR system of how we develop our objectives and key results, and we have people who are owning each objective and key result on the team. So all of that ladders up to like the corporate goals. So we kind of understand like corporate goals, but I mean the company goals. So I think that's one way we kind of link everything together. But I'm actually very much boots on the ground. Like I probably have more meetings than anyone else. But I don't know. But
But I mean, that's really what it's about when you're in that position. Like, it's less about the doing and more about the understanding. And yes, to
I'm doing
being
a
a
lot still though.
lot of meetings.
I'm doing a lot still. Like in terms of I still like help like write potentially write some stuff or
That's
edit
amazing.
stuff. Yeah, like sometimes I'm ideating with the team, like helping with like content ideas. Like I'm still doing all that stuff. And maybe I shouldn't. For any other VPs that are listening to this, yeah, me, if you're like, what are you doing with your life? But I don't know, like for me, there's also the fun of marketing. I love marketing. I just love it. So for me, there's a part of it where I need to be in the weeds because it just makes me happy.
You got to fill your cup. Yes. Yeah.
My
Yes.
marketing like love cup.
Yes, you do. It gives you energy to then walk into the things that suck your energy. You got to, it's a balancing act of
Yeah,
ebb and flow. There are
absolutely.
things in everybody's job that no, we don't all love, and
For
we
me,
got to
it's
do it.
a spreadsheet. Like
And
the
we
more
got
I'm,
to,
yeah, the more I'm living in the spreadsheet, it's like I have to do that. It's a part of my job. But
yes.
it's like I want to get away from the spreadsheet. But then so then that's what I do. I fill my marketing love cup, and then I'm okay.
Yes. Yes. I'm a little the opposite. I love the spreadsheets. I love the
Really?
spreadsheets. It gives me the data and the information to be able to make decisions and gives me the information I need. And then I can go have some really thoughtful conversations. And then I look at a giant wall of words. So, like, I don't know what to do with
I
this.
know
So,
I love the data. I love the dashboard. Like I love like going into like, my GA dashboards and stuff like that and understanding what's happening. The thing is like if I'm over indexing of just doing that all day, I do this like
that's fair.
team part and like all the other creative stuff that also comes with the marketing stuff. So I feel like it has to be balanced for sure.
But I also think that's the beauty of marketing is we all have different loves of it. Like I love the numbers and some people really love the words
Right.
there's so much you can do with both of those things in a multitude of ways and it's if you get into marketing it doesn't mean that you're going to be doing just one aspect of it. There's so
So true.
many. It's
So true.
magical. I love it. Let's talk about what everybody's on their edge of their seats are for is this idea of multiple go to market motions. So before we get into the how and the why and the nooks and crannies of all of the things, let's define this for folks because it means different things to different people. So go to market, aka get the money, show me the money. What is that? define that for us, Nadia, in terms of what go to market means.
Yeah, for me, it means like how you're going to go to market. Like, how are you selling into the market and who you're selling to? So I think, and I've heard a few other alternate definitions, but it really is to me like how you're going to get the money. Like, how are you going to go out there and sell your product, and what is that market? So, and I think like what I've noticed like, earlier on in my career, this is again like just me observing this, is that people or companies, or I got at the assumption that it was, we're just going to go after this one go to market strategy. We're just going to be PLG, product led growth go to market, and that's what we're going to do. And we're going to grow and sell based on like our product and like leveraging the features and selling in product and like push notifications to certain segments and stuff like that. And as I started to work in organizations at the more senior level, it's really about layering, I think, go to markets that work for your particular company. So and based on your product and stuff like that. So I think it's about layering that, but also the other thing is, and where I think sometimes companies will either succeed or fail, is developing a strategy for each of those motions. Like, if you want to, if you're product led and then you layer on a sales led motion, for example, how are we going to support those two motions? Like, I think being very, you have to understand like what's the budget, the resources, how's the team, how are we operationalizing these two go to markets? Because you could easily say we're going to do these two go to markets, but if you don't really have a plan, strategy, budget around it, it most likely will fail.
Yeah, let's talk about the different types of motions. You mentioned two of them. You mentioned PLG, product led growth, and sales. Before we define all these different ones, what other ones sort of come to mind for you that are the go tos?
Yeah, I think again, there's different thoughts on some of this, but what comes to mind for me is like inbound led, outbound led motions, product led, sales led, event led, even community led.
That's totally a thing. It's
And
coming.
yeah, community led. And I've even heard this is actually I had attended a GTM partners event a while ago, and I remember them saying, this is Sanger Vajre's, they have a GTM partners data team and a consulting team, and they also even mentioned like ecosystem led. So it's really about your integration partners, even like, and also like channel led is another one. So I mean, there's a whole bunch of things or motions that you can either, I mean, there's one, but the thing is like usually one motion will plateau, tap out at one point. And then you got to figure out, okay, well, what else can we do to reach, a different market, or the same market, but in a different way.
And I think that's what's happening right now is for all the companies that went sales led or all the companies that leaned into their marketing teams and then overhired because
Right.
they had momentum and then plateaued and then had to do these massive layoffs. I think that's a really great example, terrifying and sad example, but reality of why maybe not leaning into one GTM motion makes sense.
Yeah, and I think like the layoffs like were definitely a mix of like some like complex factors like
For sure.
economy and also like VC funding just completely drying up. But I think that you're right. Like there's like there's a GTM component of that too. It's like maybe there was just we were banking on one thing too much, and then like when things weren't going as well, then we didn't have companies didn't have anything to fall back on, or couldn't get the other motion up and going quick enough
Fast enough. Yeah.
to close the gap on any revenue.
So we have all of these possibilities in terms of how we go to market. And I agree. I don't think you can depend on one anymore because I think a couple things have changed. One is the VC market, um, to just how the market is in general in terms of are we going into recession? Are we not going into recession? Who knows? But hang on to your hats.
Hopefully,
And
hopefully we're seeing the
I
tip.
think we're okay. But
Yeah, I mean, I feel like some people are saying it's going to get worse before it gets better. Some people are saying it's getting better because we've now seen the worst. So
I know it's a crapshoot right now, and that's fine. I think the other, I think there is I think it's also the audience. The audience has changed where you
Mhm.
no longer can pick up the phone as a salesperson and make a cold call. And if you're still doing that, we should talk.
Right.
Um,
Or
because the audience doesn't
if you're
want
a
it.
salesperson on the call, they'll be like, I dial all day long, and that's what I do.
Yeah, and that's really hard because the audience doesn't doesn't want it. They don't want to be, they want to make the decision, they want to do their own research, they want to be in power to make that decision of when they're willing to get on the phone with sales. It's not up to sales anymore. And so all these factors weigh into. I'm not saying get rid of your sales team. It's just time and place, which lends itself beautifully to multiple go to market strategies. Let's focus on the idea of one just to get started, because this is like the biggest elephant on the face of the planet that we have to sort of pull apart here. That was a
I don't
terrible
know if I'm all.
visual,
This
but
is,
you get it.
I'm going to give you my humble ideas, but yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I can just give my ideas based on my experience.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. Everybody has a different approach based off of their experience, and we're here to share it. That's what it's all about. So let's talk about the approach to getting started with just even knowing where to go. So how do you know which GTM motions to even lean into and where to begin?
Yeah, I think it depends on like the stage that you're currently at, and usually there's going to be one motion that's going to work for the stage that you're currently at. So you typically early stage companies, pre-seed, you're going to have. I mean, I don't know if there's really an official GTM when you're early stage. You're just trying to like
Depends.
understand the product. Yeah, you're probably going to it's founder led usually, so the founder is going to sell as well as help with like other other areas of the business like product. So there's really like you're kind of just figuring things out. So I think that at the beginning you may not really have a GTM motion until like you're getting certain like almost like product market fit, and you can kind of figure out maybe and then maybe that's you might want to debate that too. But I think that early on it's hard to tell until you start to see some traction around
Hmm.
what's happening with your business. So typically sales led is a big one early on, or it's product led. So you're launching the product. It's all about getting it's if you're PLG, then it's all about getting users and more users into the products. You're probably going to have like a free version of your product just to get people in there. And then once you find like the adoption, then from there you can start charging for it. And then that's really the product led motion. Some people will have like inbound. So sometimes you'll have inbound and sales led at the same time. So you'll have like, your website and then your product, and you're generating a really strong SEO strategy to get people to discover your product, which will then convert to hopefully a demo or a trial. But you're also layering in a sales, one person or two people sales team early on to also like generate some outbound and cold outreach. So it's really
Depends.
it depends
It
on.
does.
Yeah, it depends on the company. It depends on what the goals are. It depends on like the product. So it's really like a strategic decision of what you want to do and how you want to do it, but with the realization of and the goal of like we need to get the money somehow. So how
How are
are
we
we?
gonna get the money?
And then as you're kind of building momentum on like one go to market, so let's just say it's PLG. PLG, I mean, and a lot of debate here, and there's a lot of debate even on LinkedIn. Is PLG, does it even work? Who knows? I mean, there are some like gold standard examples out there of like PLG, companies, be a PLG until IPO, but there's not like many of those
Mhm.
examples. But even if you're PLG, you're probably going to plateau at some point. Like Slack is a perfect example. Like PLG from the start, layered in a sales team, had like 100 sales reps at one point. Don't quote me on that. I know they had like
No,
a lot.
no, no. They had a lot. Yep.
I'm going to
Same
say
with
100.
Zoom. Zoom was the same way. Total
Zoom's the same
sales
way.
led.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So like, that's the thing. At some point it's usually going to plateau. I've heard a lot from like just conversations I've had with founders and like, other GTM people out there is usually anything that you're doing plateaus typically at the 10 million ARR mark. So you're going to be like doing stuff, and then there's growth, and sometimes you'll see hockey stick growth, and then all of a sudden you reach 10 million ARR, and it's kind of like, like for like a year. And then that's when you realize like, holy crap. Like, I mean, not even a year. Some teams will not even allow to go for a whole year, but then you got to figure out, okay, what else can we do? Usually layering on a sales led or community led. Like sometimes it'll be, how do we build community? Apollo's doing this like really well with their community. I mean, it seems like they're doing it really well. I don't work at Apollo, but they're going strong with community. And a lot of
It's
other.
new.
It's new-ish, yeah. It's newish, and that's not a word, by the way. I'm just making
Well,
that.
community itself isn't new, but people leaning into it for growth feels new.
Right. And I can't think of anyone else right now that's doing it amazingly well. Apollo comes to mind. I mean, I don't know, there's other brands that are doing it, especially in the B2B
I
tech
mean,
stuff.
HubSpot's always had one, and
Right.
Gusto, I think, is having one. Like, they're all, Asana's another one that's sort of leaning into
Yes. Yes.
community of like how to use their, how to project manage it, how to product manage really well. Um, yeah, I think everybody's sort of trying to figure out this community thing. I think it's because we're all searching for connection. And so, how can we bring people together who have similar um, ideas and challenges that we can all work on these problems collectively, and then having this tool power it behind the scenes
Marketo
is
did it
huge.
amazingly well. Like I remember Marketo back in the days before it was purchased by Adobe. Like it was all about marketing automation specialists.
Yeah.
And I was a part of that community, and it made me want to use the platform more. I, wanted to go to all the conferences, like just wanted to speak. And it was so community based. And that was, I think early on, that was one of like the best examples from a marketing perspective that I can remember. You wanted to go to like
You
Marketo's
wanted to get certified.
conference.
It's a
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah. And then like they had like the Fearless 50 program, like as you wanted to be a part of their Fearless 50, if you're a marketing automation person, they would have like amazing events for their user group, like their users. And I think there's some, that was a really gold standard for me when I think about all the communities that I've belonged to. HubSpot, yeah, is really another amazing example. And then they have their annual inbound conference, which is like obviously amazing. Every marketer wants to go to it. Everybody, every marketer wants to speak at it. I submitted my speaker session. I got declined. I
But
was,
you tried. Good on you.
I tried. You know
Yes.
what? Every marketer can have a dream. Every
Yes.
marketer
And
can have a
don't give
dream.
up on that dream. Maybe this
You know
is
what,
your jumping off point because this is a
Gary,
wonderful topic.
I'm gonna totally submit another speaker submission just because of this chat.
I
I
think you
want to.
should. And I think it should be around this because I think it's so important. We get so hung up on we are a PLG led company or we are a
It's
community led
cool,
company. It's
right?
like, but you need other things. Like
Yeah.
you're leading
Cool to
with
be
that
PLG. Yeah.
and don't hang your hat on it. Um, how do you figure out you mentioned some things, from a seed funding standpoint, from a very early stage startup standpoint, yes, founder led growth is 100% where it just naturally starts.
Yeah.
You started the company, you understand the product, you understand why you even began this thing. People want to talk to you to know your story. It's why I started my other podcast, Tea Time with Tech Founders. Like, I want your story. So
Yeah.
yes to that. And then maybe you hire a single marketer to like get started. So let's talk about the growth stage. Like the companies who have a product, they've gotten some traction, they're ready to freaking go. Like, how do you figure out, in your experience, Nadia, if you worked across multiple SaaS companies,
Yeah.
we can stay in the SaaS realm, that is your bread and butter in your home. Let's talk about where you figure out where to start. You make up your own playbook. So how do you know where to begin or which motion to lead with? And do you immediately go with multiple motions, or do you say let's start here and then
No,
you
so
layer on?
it's starting with one for sure. I think there's a bunch of variables that you have to think about. You have to think about like the market. What does that look like? So your customers, what's like your TAM, your SAM, like what are you trying to do? Sometimes it depends on the product too. Like maybe it's a brand new market or product that's completely disrupting the market, or maybe it's its own category.
Mm-hmm.
You're creating a whole new
Oh
category,
gosh.
drift and conversational AI. So you have to really understand all of that, and also like how are you going to sell it? Like, are we going to sell it like in product? Are we going to have a self-serve motion? Are we going to do like a free version of this product? What are the tiers of the pricing? So that there's that's really important to consider in the strategy. And then Also, like, do we need, or are we just going to sell this? Are we going to just try to sell this with the sales team and then build out a self-serve motion with later? So it really depends, and that depends a lot on the product. Like you can think about Asana, like Asana's like you can self-serve on that.
Mhm.
Worked at Proposify. It's a sales tech tool for proposals, to create proposals. We had a self-serve motion. You can self-serve on that. You can like use the product with a really great, robust onboarding. And so it really depends. Like, can somebody figure this out on my own? Like, can somebody figure this out? So if they can, then you could probably do a PLG motion. But if it's like a really dynamic, complicated product, you're probably not going to be able to self-serve on it. So that PLG is kind of like not in the cards for that type of company. So you're probably going to have a sales team that you can demo.
Yep.
You can actually demo the product, and then you're going to have a sales team to explain it, because it could be like a really complicated HR tech platform, or a fintech product, where you need to describe it to a CFO in order for you to purchase it. So those are kind of the variables. And that's the thing, like there's kind of some ABC 1, 2, 3s around GTM, but like, again, it's so different for each type of company. And my kids are home right now, and I did warn everyone, and they're mom. We just ran in from school. I had somebody drop them off for me for the show, but I'm hearing a lot of mom. So
do you want to go check on him? That's fine.
I think real life. Now we just might get somebody joining us.
A little head pop in. That's cool.
Yeah, we'll get a head pop in.
I can even. Yeah, well, we're tight right now, so he might be okay. We'll see. And if he pops in, we can just say hi, and that's cool too, because awesome. This is what it's the joys of being live. The beauty of live television, yes, the beauty of live television. I'm here for it, and I'm here for little people. I have my own. The fact that they went down without a sound is pretty magical. So
that's amazing.
Especially on a Friday, because I always try and eke out a little bit longer. So
we're in 2 different time zones. So
we are
that you stayed up late for this.
Halfway around the world. I love this. This is what this is one of the things I love about podcasting, is I get to meet people from all over. So this is fantastic. Okay, so there's lots of things to consider depending on what kind of I'm working. I have a friend who has a startup, and they're going with a networking motion.
Oh,
so
cool.
They're like, if we can just get a few people, the way that their product work is pretty cool, is that, and I actually had them on my Tea Time with Founders podcast, so I'll put them in the notes if you want a networking sort of model. But the idea is that they're called credentials, and it's a product where they manage the crews. Every time they hire people into a boat, they have a lot of paperwork that has to get approved and make sure everybody's, and you have different countries and all of these things that have to like align. And so this product is going to just make sure that like you just upload the paperwork and they double check it for you and you get like a check mark, or they let you know when things are going to, need to be updated or whatever the case may be. And so it's this beautiful dichotomy of, if you can get a few people on the crew side to start using it, and then they send it to a company to say, well, here's all of my credentials. Let me know if you have any questions. And then the company sees the product. Then the company goes, oh, I want this for all of my people. Tell me more, right? And it's this networking effect that sort of happens as more people just come naturally into the product from the free motion for the users, that then the companies get to see it. And so that's another sort of aspect of it, depending on what the product is and how it works and how it might grow in an organic sort of way.
I thought at the beginning, like you could only get in if you were invited. Like you couldn't just use the product. Yeah, love that.
Oh yeah, that's also another like FOMO sort of aspect to it too. That sort of is like layered in. Gamification.
Can you invite me too? No, sorry, not fully enough.
For sure. Let's talk about the layering effect now, right? So we talked about starting with one. How do you manage? Let's say you have multiple GTMs.
This is where people get it wrong. Yeah, layering in the second or third is where people get. I think I've seen this. Like, this is where things can go awry, because your let's just say PLG is my favorite example, and then you're like, we need sales, and then you either don't understand like how to build a sales motion, and you just like hire like 1 or 2 sales reps, or you hire a VP of sales first, who might not have been in tech SaaS. I mean, there's a whole nother show about just that. Jason Lemkin has like so many, so much content around that from SaaStr. And So I think that's where things can go wrong. You really need to strategize. Okay, if we're going to layer this on, how do we do it? How do we do it so we operationalize it so they like these people are trained and they, if it's sales led, there's like so many things to consider. Strategy, markets, how many reps are we going to have, commission structure, also like the revenue that they're responsible for. They need to understand like, the ICP and like the buyers that they're going after. So there's a lot of things that are that need to be considered. And I think where people get things wrong is that they think that you'll be able to like build that GTM motion really fast and you'll get the return and the revenue from it a lot earlier than you actually than what actualizes or what happens. So that's where people will get it wrong. It's like, we're going to build a sales engine and then we're going to get like, $5 million more of revenue or $6 million more of ARR within like a year. And sometimes it takes longer to build a sales engine that works.
Can do that.
So then that's I think also true for community led. I think that's true for, in your point, like you mentioned like the networking led. If it's channel led, like you're building a channel, like channel's so hard. Like I was in cloud and we were trying to build a channel motion.
Define channel for me because people use this interchangeably. So when you say channel?
When I say channel, that to me means like it's reseller programs. You're getting
partner,
like,
right?
It's like a partner program. Yeah. So you're getting people in who are already like have contacts or have like they sell into the market and for you on your behalf.
So hard.
It's so hard. Yeah. So I was in like cloud and like, that was like, we were trying to build our own channel and like, it's so hard because they typically, especially in IT and cloud, like it's already so developed and they already have like these big players that they already will sell for. And then if you're like a little guy and you're like only giving them a percentage of the cut and small, and it's hard. It's hard to like really build those relationships and see that generate actual revenue. But you know what, people do it. It's usually a heavy lift, but again, it's the resources. Because if you want to build a channel partner,
or happenstance. Sometimes people just happen to have the right partners that get them going and then they can lean into that and then that's all they do. But it's either like a huge lift or I fell into this and it's working.
Right. Exactly. It's either or usually. It's like you're lucky, you're at the right place at the right time and you met the right person, and it's like, or it's like, it's the hardest thing ever. But again, it's around the resources around it. Okay. So if like we're going to be doing this, like who's managing these relationships? Who's cutting all these deals? How are we managing it? Like, do we need a portal? How are we training these people? How often are we training them around your product? How are, all of that stuff has to be considered. And if there's not somebody who's managing that on a consistent basis, it'll fail.
Yeah.
But that's really about layering in a second, because that first initial one, it was like, reliable, scalable, and it got you to a certain point. And then it's like, it's almost building other layers, other motion. It's almost like this other thing. And it requires time. It requires time.
And it sounds like you shouldn't necessarily stop the first motion.
No. You just layer it. So you're doing both. Like, so you're going to be like Slack, for example, they were PLG. They layered on the sales team specifically for enterprise accounts. You're talking to a different segment. And so, they layered it on, and that's what got them to, I don't know, 100 billion. What are they at now? I don't know. But, they did it right. I don't know. I'm not from, I don't know how long, and I honestly haven't read like every use case around this thing, but yeah, it took them time.
Here's what's funny about Slack for me. I decided to sign up for Slack because I saw them on a TV ad back in 2000.
Yeah.
So it must have been 2017.
Salesforce is doing them now. The Salesforce ads.
Yeah. You never know.
It's old is new again.
And it's true. And I think that's a whole other podcast. I actually did that with Juan Mendoza. So if you all want to check it out, we talked about what's old is new, because with cookies and things going away, you got to sort of lean into the renaissance of marketing in that regard. So yes to that. I mean, there's lots of demand motions in there that we could resurface. Let's talk about measurement, because when you talk about show me the money, get me the money, That's all well and good, but to your point, like you just said, that takes time. So,
Mm.
what are those leading indicators when you're looking at some of these initial, when you start with that one go to market? Do you wait for the money to come in and then it plateaus, then you layer in the next one, or do you use some leading indicators and then look at those? How are you sort of measuring the success of each motion and how they work together?
Yeah, it's different for
Probably a good
each
question.
one, for sure. And I probably would be like another show to go through each one. But yeah, like if you're product led and it's free, you have a free product. It's really about activation. It's all about like how many users are in the product, adoption, just all of those activation and user type of metrics that you're going to need to know about. If sales is really, it's really about your meetings booked and then like actual close opportunities. So meetings booked, opportunities, and like
Close
close
one.
one deals. So it's monitoring all of that. For inbound, it's about traffic, and it's about understanding like is it growing. I mean, again, high level, but also MQL. Some marketing teams are now they're responsible for sales more later
Mm-hmm.
stage metrics
SQS.
like sales
Mm-hmm.
accepted leads or SQOs. So it's about understanding like those metrics. Community led. I don't even know. I haven't done a community led motion before, but I don't know. Let's guess. What would those be? I don't know. Community led. I feel like it would
Community
be how
would
many,
be adoption into the community first,
right?
followed by engagement. So
Yes.
you can get into the community, but are you actually doing anything?
That's the biggest one. Yeah, I had Leslie Greenwood on I used to do a weekly show, and she was all about like that's the hardest part is engaging with the community, making sure they're active. She was the one who started the Pavilion community,
Hmm.
sales marketing community. Yeah, so it's about like engagement there. So it's really, but that is important. Like you got to define that with your team and all agree like these are the right metrics that we're going to go after. That's the other thing that can like get misaligned sometimes is like marketing is like, oh, I'm doing this, and product is like, well, I'm measuring this, and sales is like, I'm measuring this. And if you guys are all measuring different things, and there will be different metrics that like you need to monitor that are going to be different, but there should be an aligned metric of this is what we're trying to achieve all together, whether that's revenue or because product, yes, user activation, but if we're not generating like the revenue number, and I think product should have some ownership of that as well. Total different debate.
That
All
is,
product,
I love that though.
product leaders
I
listening to
mean,
this.
the great debate is definitely of who owns revenue, and we all own revenue. But to your point, the leading indicators that we monitor, I love that word, that
Mhm.
we monitor are what help each of our pieces move forward towards that revenue. At the end of the day,
I
we
was,
all
I
need
was
revenue.
pretty bad at that too. Like I would say earlier, not bad at that, but like earlier on in my career, I would always be like really focused on like those lagging metrics. But like you really need to be an expert on the leading metrics and even like channel performance, like how is each channel performing, and really get a weeds on like all of that. Because if you can't change, well, you don't know. So if you gotta really know before you can change it.
And you gotta know where you're going. You gotta start at the end to some degree. We know we want this much money, so we need these many customers. So that's probably this many leads, and you sort of work your way up. But at the end of the day, then when you actually turn the program on, you got to measure from top down.
Yeah.
Okay, we hit the impression number, we hit the click number, and you sort of just keep layering in until work towards that bottom of the funnel. But it doesn't
Yeah, and
happen
some people say
overnight, and you
like
can't expect the revenue
journey, like
magic.
they like measure the journeys and
Mhm.
like what's happening, where are the conversion points. Like there's like a bunch of ways that you can measure that too. I'm not, yeah.
Yeah, and so do all the go-to marketing motions sort of start at that top, or do they intersect, or does it depend? I feel like PLG sort of starts more at the bottom and then builds the funnel
Yeah, yeah,
topwards.
they can intersect. I think like the gold standard of PLG is like just selling in the product, using the product to leverage sales. So you have to define like some key moments that are happening within the product that is like showing that there's an account here that's triggered, or like an enterprise person. What I'm trying to say is that a salesperson is triggered by actions in the product that would then require them to follow up. Let's just say there's like 6 people in free trial from the same company. Boom. That's like, hey, sales, you got to contact this company. So that it would be like an integrated like, measurement of and using so it would be like sales led and PLG working together in order to like drive the revenue. So sometimes they're separate. Most of the times sometimes they're separate. Sometimes they're you have one target everyone's working towards. I think it should be everyone's working towards like this main goal, and then like each department has like separate goals
Its own
that's
KPIs.
helping them get closer to that North
I think that
Star.
makes so much sense. How do you, in terms of optimizations, when you're looking at multiple go-to-market, motions, we talked about not necessarily turning any off, but does it come to a point where you maybe put your, bet on the wrong horse, so to speak, and decide that this isn't the motion that's working, but
Yeah.
luckily you got a couple, going at the same time and it's okay to turn one off?
Yeah, no, I'll give you an example. It's not exactly my example, but I knew, you know, I knew about this example. Anyway, like what I'm trying to say is that when I was working at Proposify, we were PLG, and then they layered on a sales motion, but it was a false start. It just didn't work. So we had to like pause the brakes and like re-strategize. And then like a year-ish later, we relaunched it, and we're much more successful because we had just a more cohesive strategy around it. And we thought, we thought through budget and like how we were going to operationalize it, how many reps we need, and what was the monthly, what were our monthly targets, yearly targets, and how we were all going to align to support it. So I think that was the difference. So, but yes, like that was an example where we had to stop it.
It happens, right? Where we like think we're trying to move so quickly, we move a little too quickly.
Yeah, no, we were thinking of like layering on community led on top, but we decided to like pause in it because we knew that it would take like a lot of resources to really, generate a meaningful outcome. And so we decided, no, like we're not going to start it now. But it was something that, we were considering.
Yeah, yeah, community is definitely a lift, but powerful if you can lean into it. There's a new one too. I was just on a podcast about a week ago.
Oh,
The new show's coming out. Podcast led growth is
interesting.
like becoming a thing too. I mean, I started a podcast from a content standpoint, but I didn't think about it from a growth standpoint. So that's happening as well between um, and I think Mason Cosby, who was also my show,
Oh
Scrappy
yeah.
ABM, is sort of leading the charge in that motion from an ABM standpoint. It's very much podcast led, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
very
yeah.
cool.
Scrappy ABM. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I know he had a really great podcast. Yeah, the ABM podcast. Is he still doing the podcast? I'm not sure if they put on hold for a little bit, but it was fantastic. I think he had like 4 seasons of it or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, we got a question, Nadia. We got a question.
Oh, hey.
It's a LinkedIn user, so I can't see who you are, but I'll look you up later, I promise. Uh, they found that companies may be startups or more mature companies that barely pay attention to segmentation, targeting and positioning. Do you also sense that?
Yeah, I think that so the ones that do it right really think about positioning, and that's really about looking at like what's your total, like what's your TAM, what's your like relevant addressable market and stuff like that. Also, like I mean, I'm really prescribed to April Dunford's positioning methodology, so we actually hired her to do some work with us at Proposify and we use that to help with our own positioning in market. So I think. Sometimes overlooked, but the companies that are doing it right are definitely considering that and how they approach their marketing. I think that it's in terms of targeting, yeah, like the positioning is so important in terms of targeting and segmentation. Also, I mean, is a part of like your positioning exercise too. It's like how does this positioning work for each of these segments that are a part of our total addressable market? So all of those things should be considered. Have they been overlooked, in my opinion? Sometimes, like I've worked at organizations where an executive team or potentially a board has kind of like said, we don't need that, or not as important as like the revenue number. So I think as a marketing team and as a marketer, chief marketing officer, that's really where you got to like wave that flag of this is really important work. This is actually foundational. So that I really do believe it's foundational work in order to drive your business.
Before you figure out what your go-to-market motion
Yeah.
is, you
Yeah. It's a really good point. Yeah.
thank you, Artur, for your question. And yes to figuring out product market fit ahead of time before you start hiring and spending a bunch of money. I
Yes.
think we're both in agreement there.
Yes, please.
Please, please. And it's going to depend because depending on your audience, for audiences who do not want to deal with sales, you're going to need to figure out a motion that is not sales led. You will, if you're talking about CISOs or developers or even marketers, we are the worst to market to. Having sales-led growth there is,
We have high
yeah,
standards. Yeah.
yeah. We want to be in the driver's seat. We make our own decisions. We feel empowered. So
Right.
make as much information available online as possible to help us make that decision. Then we'll come to you. We promise. We promise. Um, so what I heard you say, Nadia, in terms of how you layer in multiple go-to-market strategies, we just talked about, making sure you do the legwork to understand your product market fit, making sure that your founders have done some legwork up front to, lead the sales charge initially to make sure they get some traction, and then figure out based on the product, the market, and how your primary audience, if it's enterprise, doing a PLG might be really tricky. But having something that's more consumer facing, like a Slack product, then PLG is the way to go. Understanding those different aspects and then figuring out your initial go to market motion, letting that build up some momentum, and then layering that next one to really fill the funnel is ultimately what I heard you say, with a lot of nuance. But did I miss anything? Is there anything you want to double down on, or a last word you want to have here that we may have missed?
Yes, I think you really summarized it well. Actually, you summarized it way better than I actually explained it. So thanks for that. Yeah, I think it's all a learning process. Like no one's getting it's all experimentation. There are experts in this who've done it a bunch of times. But I think it's a journey, and I think everybody's GTM journey is always a little bit different. And again, like my point of view on it is very much based on just my experience leading companies with in different segments and different categories. But yeah, I think that it's something that is not often discussed in great detail. But there are definitely some resources, online. One of the people that have so much on this is GTM Partners. Like, I was at a couple of their events. They're fantastic. Go online, you can check them out. And there's also, Winning by Design is another like GTM, like great company that shares a lot of like how to like launch, new motions specifically around sales-led motions. So I would I would recommend checking that out as well. But thank you so much, Carrie, for having me. This has been an awesome conversation.
It was such a joy. I'm so glad you were here with me, Nadia. Final question, because you are more than a marketer. You're more than a marketer. And it's been a wild west in the last 3 years in figuring out how to live with this COVID thing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We sort of like figured it out, kind of. We're dealing with it. But the dust is settling and we're moving on. And so 2024 is a new dawn and a new year. So what are you most looking forward to in life?
So I just started this gig, Wellness Living, VP of Marketing, Wellness Living. You can follow my updates on LinkedIn of how that's going. So I think it's really about, it's driving the leadership that I need to within the organization, but also just like creating some moments of where I can breathe in between. And one of the things I have been thinking about is, potentially I have missed like doing the whole podcast thing. So I am looking at potentially launching something there. I mean, I know like people listening are probably like, gosh, the world doesn't need another marketing podcast, but
yes, they do. They need you, Nadia.
I promise it'll be fun. It'll be fun and it'll be good. So that's something that, if everything goes right, it'll be launched in a couple of quarters, maybe. I have everything here that I need. I've had.
Can you give us a sneak peek? What's sort of the thing you're leaning into in regards to starting a podcast? That's
the part I need to figure out, Carrie. But
okay.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. You'll be the first person that knows once I nail it down. But I think the big thing that. And I don't have an answer.
That's okay. That's okay. I love that you want to get back into it, and we're here for it, and we're on the edge of our seats.
I have some ideas, but I gotta nail it.
Well, if you need a brainstorm partner.
Oh, yeah. If anybody wants to DM me, if they're interested in co-hosting with me, let me know.
Well, I don't
I'll be happy to. Yeah, be happy
Let's
to.
brainstorm. I want to help. Let's get this off the ground for you. Let's get you back in the game. I'm here for it.
I have everything I need. I have like I have a podcast mic that's been sitting here for like 6 months. It's right beside me. I gotta just install it. And then I got all my stuff. I've got all like my headphones. Like I'm ready to do it. And I got my StreamYard link. I've got, I've got all my editing stuff all ready to go. Just gotta like,
You
make
know
it
the
happen.
game.
Gotta just make it happen. Exactly.
Well, whatever, kick in the pants you need here. I'm here for you, Nadia, because I want to hear it. I want it if no one else does.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
We're on the edge of our seats. We're going to make it happen. Nadia, I'm so, so grateful. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. This episode was brought to you by MKG Marketing, the digital marketing agency that helps complex brands get found via SEO and digital ads. It's hosted by me, Carrie Gard, CEO and co-founder of MKG Marketing. And if you are a marketer in B2B tech, marketing to complex brands, come hang out with me. I want to know your story. I want to know what you got going on over there. DM me. Thank you so much, Nadia. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bye for now.